The galactic proving grounds floated in the darkness of space like a massive jewel. It was bigger than most moons, built from metals that could survive the heat of stars. Every 1,000 years, the greatest warriors from across the galaxy came here to prove their strength. This year, over 200 species had sent their champions. Taemin stood in the arrival hall and watched the aliens around him. Some had 4 arms covered in razor-sharp scales. Others breathed fire, or walked on 6 legs, made of living crystal. They were all massive, all terrifying, all built for war. Next to him, Hana checked her medical kit for the 5th time that hour. "They are staring at us," Hana said quietly in Korean. "Let them stare," Taemin replied. He kept his face calm, even though his heart was beating fast. He had faced armed enemies in combat zones across Earth. He had performed surgery while bombs fell around him. But this was different. This was the entire galaxy watching. A creature that looked like a walking mountain of muscle and stone approached them. Its skin was dark, red, and steam came from its mouth when it breathed. This was a Voltuum, one of the most feared warrior species in known space. "You are the humans?" the Voltuum said. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We are," Taemin said. The Voltuum laughed. The sound echoed across the hall. Other aliens turned to look. "They sent healers to a warrior trial. This is the greatest joke in galactic history." More laughter came from the watching crowd. A group of Crethians, insect-like beings with acid dripping from their claws, clicked their mandibles in amusement. Flying creatures with metal wings circled overhead, calling out mocking sounds. Sang-ho, Earth's military attaché, stepped forward. He was older than Taemin and Hana, with gray hair and scars on his hands. He had been a soldier for 40 years before becoming a diplomat. "You find it funny?" Sang-ho asked the Voltuum calmly. "Of course. Look at them. They carry medicine pouches instead of weapons. They will die in the first trial." Sang-ho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Taemin has performed battlefield surgery under enemy fire 217 times. He has saved over 3,000 lives in active combat zones. Hana has pulled survivors from collapsed buildings during orbital bombardments. She once worked for 72 hours straight during a chemical attack, saving an entire city district. They have seen more real combat than most species here experience in 10 generations. The Voltuum stopped laughing. Its eyes narrowed. "Humans come from a death world," Sang-ho continued. "Everything on our planet tries to kill us. The weather, the animals, the bacteria, even the plants. We evolved to survive all of it. But we also evolved to save each other. That is what makes us dangerous. We will see," the Voltuum growled. It walked away, but Taemin noticed it did not laugh anymore. The next day, the trials began. The first test was individual combat. Each champion would fight in a sealed arena against simulated enemies. The enemies were holographic, but they could still hurt you. The pain was real. The injuries were real. Some champions would not survive. Taemin entered his arena. The door sealed behind him. The lights dimmed. Then 3 simulated predators appeared, each one designed from the deadliest creatures in galactic records. They had claws like swords and moved faster than anything on Earth. Taemin did not panic. He had been trained since childhood in Taekwondo and Hapkido. He had learned combat medicine in the worst war zones on Earth. His body moved before his mind could think. He dodged the first predator, struck the second in its weak point, and used the third one's momentum against it. In 90 seconds, all 3 were down. The watching aliens went quiet. Hana's turn came next. Her arena filled with 6 flying attackers that shot acid. She was smaller than Taemin, but she was faster. She had grown up in Seoul, training in emergency response. She had learned to think 3 steps ahead, to predict danger before it happened. She moved through the arena like water, never where the attackers expected. She won in under 2 minutes. That evening, the champions gathered in the common area. It was a huge space with different environments for different species. Some areas had water, some had extreme heat, some had gravity so heavy it would crush a human flat. The Voltuum from earlier approached Taemin again. This time, it was not laughing. "You fight well for a healer," it admitted. "Thank you," Taemin said. "But fighting simulations is not the same as real war. The trials will get harder. Much harder." "I know." The Voltuum leaned closer. "Then why did Earth send healers? Why not your best soldiers? Your best killers?" Taemin looked at the massive alien. He thought about all the people he had saved. All the soldiers and civilians who were alive because he had refused to give up on them. All the times he had run toward danger instead of away from it. "We are soldiers," Taemin said quietly. "We just refuse to forget what we are fighting for." The Voltuum stared at him for a long moment. Then, it nodded slowly and walked away. Hana joined Taemin. She had been talking with a small, bird-like alien from a peaceful species called the Melivans. The bird alien looked nervous. "His name is Jinwoo," Hana explained. "He says his people were required to send champions, but they are not warriors. He is afraid." Taemin looked at Jinwoo. The small alien's feathers were shaking. "Tell him we will help him if we can." "But he is competition," Hana said. "He is also someone who needs help," Taemin replied. Hana translated. Jinwoo's large eyes got even bigger. He made a chirping sound and bowed his head. Across the common area, other champions watched the humans. They did not understand yet. They thought humans were weak because they showed kindness. They thought compassion was the same as softness. They would learn. The galaxy would learn. Because humans were Deathworlders. They had climbed to the top of the most dangerous food chain in known space. They had survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and their own worst impulses. They had learned to split atoms and cross space. But they had also learned something else. Something the galaxy had forgotten or never known. They had learned that the strongest humans were not the ones who could hurt the most. They were the ones who could care the most, who could suffer the most to protect others, who could walk through fire and pain and death itself for someone they had decided was worth saving. The trials would test strength. They would test courage. They would test skill and endurance. But they would also test something else. Something the galaxy was not ready for. They would test what Deathworlders call compassion. And the galaxy was about to learn that nothing in the universe was more powerful or more terrifying than a human who had decided to care. The second trial started 3 days later. The arena masters called it the Survival Gauntlet. 200 champions were dropped into a massive simulation that covered an area the size of a small continent. The environment was designed to kill them. Poisonous plants, deadly predators, extreme weather, hidden traps, and terrain that could collapse without warning. They had to survive for 7 full cycles, each cycle lasting 30 hours. Most species would lose half their champions. That was expected. That was normal. Taemin and Hana landed in a dense jungle region. The air was thick and hot, hard to breathe. Strange sounds came from every direction. In the distance, they could hear screaming. The trials had already started claiming victims. "We need to find water and shelter," Hana said, pulling out a small scanner from her kit. "Agreed," Taemin replied. He was already checking the area for threats. Years of military training had taught him to notice everything. The way the leaves moved, the smell of the air, the feeling of being watched. They moved carefully through the jungle. After 2 hours, they found a cave that seemed safe. Taemin checked it for predators, while Hana tested the nearby water source. It was drinkable after filtering. "We should fortify this position," Hana suggested. "Build traps around the entrance. Create a medical station inside." Taemin nodded. But then he heard something. A cry for help. It was faint, almost lost in the jungle sounds. It was coming from the east. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Yes," Hana said. "It sounds like someone is in trouble." They looked at each other. They both knew what they should do. Stay hidden. Survive. Win the trial. That was the smart choice. That was what every other species would do. But they were human. And humans had never been good at doing the smart thing when someone needed help. They ran toward the sound. They found Jinwoo and 3 other Melevins trapped in a quicksand pit. The small, bird-like aliens were sinking fast, their wings flapping uselessly. Around them, 2 simulated predators circled, waiting for an easy meal. "Help us," Jinwoo cried when he saw the humans. "Please." Taemin did not hesitate. He grabbed a long vine from a nearby tree and threw it to Jinwoo. "Grab on!" Hana pulled out a medical flashbang from her kit and threw it at the predators. The device exploded with light and sound, designed to disorient enemies without causing permanent harm. The predators screeched and backed away. "Pull!" Taemin shouted. He and Hana hauled on the vine. Jinwoo grabbed it with his talons and they pulled him free. Then, they threw it again for the next Melevin. And the next. And the next. The 4th Melevon was sinking too fast. Taemin jumped into the edge of the quicksand, reaching out. The alien grabbed his hand, just as a predator attacked. Hana threw herself between them, taking a slash across her arm. She cried out in pain but did not let go of her stun weapon. She fired it point blank into the predator's face. It collapsed. They pulled the last Melevon free. Hana's arm was bleeding badly. Taemin wrapped it quickly with bandages from his kit. "Why?" Jinwoo asked, breathing hard. "Why did you save us?" "You needed help," Taemin said simply. "That is enough." Jinwoo stared at him. In 10,000 years of these trials, no species had ever helped their competitors. Competition meant survival. Helping others meant weakness. But these humans had just risked their lives for aliens they barely knew. Word spread fast. The arena had cameras everywhere, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Millions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched as the humans carried the wounded Melevins back to their cave. Watched as Taemin performed field surgery on one who had been poisoned by the quicksand. Watched as Hana taught the bird aliens how to identify safe water and avoid predator territories. The arena masters were confused. The Galactic Council, watching from their distant chambers, were shocked. In the history of the trials, this had never happened. By the 3rd day, more aliens came to the human camp. They were injured, lost, or desperate. Some were from species that had mocked humans at the opening ceremony. Some were from species that had never even heard of Earth. It did not matter to Taemin and Hana. They helped everyone. A young Crethian named Yuna arrived on the 4th day. She was bleeding from a trap wound, her acid blood eating through her own exoskeleton. Her people were proud warriors, who showed no weakness. She had crawled for hours to reach the human camp, knowing her own people would rather let her die than show mercy. She expected the humans to laugh, to turn her away, to use her weakness against her. Instead, Taemin carefully treated her wound using specialized materials from his kit. He had to protect his own hands from her acid blood, but he worked steadily, calmly. He talked to her the whole time, explaining what he was doing, asking if she was comfortable. "Why are you doing this?" Yuna asked. Her voice was weak. "My people called yours fragile vermin. We laughed at you." "I know," Taemin said. "But you are hurt, and I am a medic. Your opinion of me does not change my job." Yuna's mandibles trembled. She had been a warrior for 20 cycles. She had killed hundreds of enemies. She had been trained since birth to be strong, to never show emotion, to survive at any cost. But she had never met anyone like these humans. "I do not understand your species," she whispered. Hana knelt beside her. "We come from a dangerous world. Everything there tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived by being tough. Yes. But also by taking care of each other. A human alone dies. Humans together survive. But we are not your people." "No," Hana agreed. "But you are someone's daughter. Someone's friend. Someone who matters. That is enough." By the 5th day, the human cave had become a coalition camp. 15 different species were working together, something that had never happened in trial history. Tae-min taught them combat medicine. Hana taught them survival techniques. They shared food and water. They posted guards together. They protected each other. The arena cameras captured everything. Across the galaxy, people watched in silence. They saw the Voltuum champion called Krell approach the camp on day 6. He had been wounded by another competitor, a deep gash across his stone-like chest. He stood at the camp entrance, proud and angry. "Okay," Tae-min said. "But the offer is there. If you change your mind." Krell started to leave. Then he stopped. He looked at all the different species in the camp. Species that hated each other. Species that had been at war for centuries, all of them working together. Alive because the humans had refused to let them die. "Why?" Krell asked. "Why do you do this? You gain nothing. You help your enemies. This is madness." Tae-min stood up. He walked to the massive alien and looked up at him. "On my world, I have pulled wounded soldiers from enemy armies out of burning vehicles. I have treated civilians from countries at war with mine. I have saved the lives of people who would have killed me if given the chance. No, because I decided that every life has value. Even lives that disagree with me. Even lives that hate me. Even lives that I will never see again. I am human. We do not let people die just because it would be easier." Krell stared at this small, fragile creature. This Deathworlder, who should have been focused on his own survival. This healer, who kept running toward danger instead of away from it. "Your species is insane," Krell said. "Yes," Tae-min agreed. "Probably. But will you let me treat that wound?" Krell hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. The galaxy watched. And for the first time in thousands of years, they began to wonder if they had been wrong about what made someone strong. On the 7th day, the survival trial ended. Every single member of the human coalition survived. 0 deaths. 0 critical injuries. It was unprecedented in trial history. The arena masters did not know what to do. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, and Tae-min and Hana simply packed their medical kits, said goodbye to the friends they had made, and prepared for the next trial. They did not know that they had already changed the galaxy forever. The final trial was supposed to be a test of strategy and leadership. The champions would be divided into teams and given complex tactical problems to solve. The arena masters had prepared elaborate scenarios. The Galactic Council had placed bets on which species would dominate. None of it mattered. On the morning of the final trial, alarms started screaming throughout the station. Red lights flashed in every corridor. The calm voice of the station, AI announced something that made every being freeze in terror. Critical system failure detected. Primary reactor containment compromised. Secondary power grid offline. Tertiary backup systems failing. Station-wide evacuation required. Time to catastrophic failure. 4 hours, 17 minutes. This was not a simulation. This was not a test. This was real. Panic erupted immediately. Champions who had fought bravely in the trials now scrambled over each other trying to reach the escape pods. Species that had formed temporary alliances turned on each other. The strong pushed aside the weak. Screams and roars filled the air. Tae-min and Hana were in the common area when the alarm started. They ran toward the evacuation zones, but not to save themselves. They ran to find the others from their coalition. "Jin Woo," Hana called out. She spotted the small mellow van being trampled by larger aliens rushing past. She threw herself into the crowd and pulled him free. "Are you hurt?" "One. One of one. One Sid." "I am scared," Jinwoo chirped. His feathers were flat against his body in terror. "Stay with us," Tae-min said. He was already counting in his head. How many champions were on the station? How many escape pods were available? The numbers were bad. Very bad. They found Yuna near the medical bay. She was trying to help injured aliens, but more kept appearing. A structural support beam had collapsed during the initial system failure. Dozens were trapped. "We need to get them out," Yuna said when she saw the humans. "The station is dying," Taemin replied. "We may not have time. Then we make time," Hana said firmly. They worked together, pulling aliens from the rubble. Taemin performed emergency treatment on the worst injuries, while Hana organized the others into groups. More members of their coalition arrived. They all started helping without being asked. Krell appeared, carrying 3 smaller aliens under his massive arms. "The escape pods are almost full. They are saying there is not enough room for everyone." "How many pods?" Taemin asked. 60 pods. Each holds 4 beings. The station has 347 life forms currently aboard. Hana did the math quickly. That is only 240 spaces. Over 100 beings will be left behind. The station shook violently. Somewhere deep in its core, metal was tearing apart. The AI announced an update. Time to catastrophic failure. 3 hours, 51 minutes. Sang-ho found them in the chaos. The old military attaché had a grim look on his face. "The Galactic Council has made their decision. They are evacuating council members and champions from priority species first. Everyone else will be left behind." "That is murder," Yuna hissed. "That is politics," Sang-ho replied bitterly. "The Melevans, the Trillics, the Ossians, all the peaceful species that were forced to compete, they are being classified as acceptable losses." Jinwoo made a small, broken sound. Taemin felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He had felt this before. In war zones. When politicians made decisions that killed soldiers and civilians. When people in safe places decided who deserved to live and who did not. "No," he said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "No," he repeated, louder. "This is not acceptable. We are going to save everyone." "That is impossible," Krell rumbled. "The math does not work. The station will explode. We cannot save everyone." "Then we make new math," Hana said. She had the same look in her eyes that Taemin knew was in his own. It was the look that said they had made a decision, and nothing would change it. Sang-ho studied them both. Then he smiled. It was the same smile he had shown the Voltuum on the first day. "What do you need?" "Actually once time." "Ender." "Actually once time." "Do-yun," Taemin said. "Where is Earth's engineer delegate?" They found Do-yun in the station's engine room, already working frantically on the reactor systems. She was young, barely 30, but she had designed emergency systems for space stations throughout Earth's solar system. Her hands were burned from emergency repairs, but she did not stop working. "Can you stabilize the reactor?" Taemin asked. "No," Do-yun said flatly. "The damage is too severe. The reactor will explode. I can maybe buy an extra hour. But that is all. What if we do not try to stabilize it? What if we use it?" Do-yun looked at him like he was crazy. "Use a reactor that is about to explode? The escape pods cannot hold everyone. But what about the cargo bays? Could we convert them into emergency shelters? Seal them off from the rest of the station? If we could divert power to life support in those sections, and separate them from the main structure before the explosion, you want to turn cargo bays into lifeboats and then blow up the station around them?" Do-yun's eyes went wide. "That is insane. The stress calculations alone. Can it work?" Hana interrupted. Do-yun was quiet for a long moment. Her mind was racing through equations and engineering principles. "Maybe. If we use the hazard systems from the arena as propulsion to push the cargo bay sections away from the blast. If we manually override every safety system. If we can jury-rig the life support to handle triple capacity. If we have enough people to execute the plan simultaneously across multiple sections. If 1,000 things go right. So it can work," Taemin said. "It can kill us all faster if we fail." "We are already dying," Sang-ho pointed out. "At least this is trying." Do-yun looked at the humans. Then at the aliens who had gathered around them, Jinwoo, Yuna, Krell, and dozens of others from their coalition. They all had the same expression: fear. Yes, but also hope. I will need help, Du-Yun said finally. A lot of help. Tell us what to do, Krell said. They spread the plan through the station. Most species refused to help. They called the humans insane. They said the plan would doom everyone. Better to accept the council's decision and let some survive than risk everyone in a foolish attempt to save all. But those the humans had saved during the survival trial remembered. They remembered how Taemin had run toward danger to help them, how Hana had shared her supplies when she had no reason to, how these Deathworlders had chosen compassion when survival said they should choose selfishness. Jinwoo broadcast a message across all channels. The humans are trying to save us all. Every single one of us. Even those the council has decided to abandon. They are risking their own lives for beings they do not even know. This is what humans call compassion. Will we help them? Or will we prove we are less than they are? Yuna added her voice. I am Krethian. We pride ourselves on strength. But I have learned that I knew nothing about true strength until I met humans. They choose to suffer so others will not have to. Not for gain, not for glory. Simply because they believe every life matters. I will help them. Who else will? There was silence. Then a voice spoke up. It was a Voltuum. Not Krell. A different one who had mocked humans at the very beginning. I will help. Another voice. A trillion crystalline being. I will help. More voices. Dozens. Then hundreds. Even some of the priority species, who already had escape pod seats, abandoned them to join the effort. They could not explain why. They just knew that the humans were doing something they had never seen before, something that the galaxy had forgotten was possible. They were choosing everyone over themselves. Du-Yun divided them into teams. Some would work on the cargo bay conversions. Some would reroute power systems. Some would handle the manual overrides. Some would prepare the arena hazard systems for use as propulsion. Taemin and Hana led medical teams, ready to treat injuries that would definitely happen. The station shook again, more violently. The AI announced, time to catastrophic failure. 2 hours, 12 minutes. They had to move faster. The work was brutal. The systems were not designed for this. Safety protocols fought them at every step. 3 aliens died when a power conduit exploded. 12 more were seriously injured. But they kept going. Krell and other Voltuums used their massive strength to manually force open sealed doors. Jinwoo and the Melevins used their small size to access tight maintenance shafts. The Krethians used their acid to cut through walls that blocked critical pathways. Every species contributed what they could, and the humans were everywhere. Leading teams, solving problems, refusing to give up. With 40 minutes remaining, Du-Yun announced they were ready. 5 cargo bay sections had been converted. Each could hold 70 beings. That was 350 spaces. More than enough. Everyone get to the cargo bays, Sang-Ho shouted. Move, now. The evacuation was chaos, but organized chaos. The coalition members helped guide others. No pushing. No fighting. The strong helped the weak. With 10 minutes remaining, the last alien was sealed inside a cargo bay. Du-Yun started the sequence that would separate the bays from the main station and activate the improvised propulsion. Where are the humans? Krell suddenly asked. Where are Taemin and Hana and Do-Yun? Jinwoo pointed at a monitor. It showed the reactor room. Du-Yun was still there, manually stabilizing the core to buy them extra time to get clear. Taemin and Hana were in different sections, making sure the separation sequence worked correctly. They will die, Yuna breathed. They know, Jinwoo said softly. The cargo bay monitor showed Du-Yun in the reactor room. Radiation levels were climbing rapidly. Warning symbols flashed red across every screen. She was typing commands into a damaged console. her hands shaking from exposure poisoning. 5 minutes to separation, the AI announced. Warning: reactor radiation at lethal levels. Evacuation required. In Cargo Bay 3, Krell stared at the screen. Around him, dozens of aliens pressed close, watching. These were beings who had been saved by the humans, who had learned what compassion meant by seeing it in action. "We have to do something," Yuna said, her voice cracked. "The humans gave us life," Jinwoo said quietly. "And we are going to watch them die." On the screen, Duyun collapsed. She caught herself on the console, forced herself upright, kept typing. Blood ran from her nose. Her skin was turning red from radiation burns. Taemin's voice came over the communication system. He was in Junction 7, manually holding a power coupling together because the automatic systems had failed. "Duyun." "How much longer?" 3 minutes, Duyun gasped. "The separation sequence is locked. You need to get out of there." "So do you. Someone has to monitor the reactor. If it destabilizes early, the cargo bays will not get clear in time. Everyone dies. Then we take turns." Hana's voice joined. She was in Junction 12, doing the same thing as Taemin. "Rotate through the radiation. Share the exposure. Nobody takes a lethal dose." "There is no time," Duyun said. "The math does not work. Someone has to stay. Until the end." Silence. The whole cargo bay had gone quiet, listening. "I will do it," Taemin said. "I am already exposed from being near the reactor core earlier. It makes sense." Tae. "No," Hana said firmly. "I am smaller. I need less shielding. I can last longer in high radiation." "I am the engineer," Duyun said. "I know the systems. It has to be me." They were arguing over who got to die. The aliens listened in stunned silence as these 3 humans debated which of them should sacrifice themselves for strangers. Krell's hands clenched into fists. Something was breaking inside him. He had been a warrior for 50 cycles. He had conquered planets. He had killed thousands. He had believed that strength was about taking, about surviving, about being willing to do whatever was necessary to win. But these humans, these soft, fragile, impossible humans, they were arguing over who got to suffer, so others would not have to. "This is what you meant," Krell said out loud. "This is what humans call compassion." Jinwoo was crying. Melevins did not cry often, but tears ran down his feathered face. "They saved us in the jungle. Now they will die for us. How do we repay this?" Yuna's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in Krethians. "We cannot. There is no repaying this." On the monitor, Doyun fell again. This time she did not get up immediately. The radiation was killing her. But still she reached for the console. 2 minutes to separation, the AI announced. Sang-ho's voice came over the communication system. He was in Cargo Bay 1. Already sealed in. Taemin. Hana. Duyun. This is a direct order from your commanding officer. Get to safety. Now. No, sir, all 3 replied in unison. That was not a request. We know, sir. Taemin said. His voice was calm. Steady. He had made his decision. But we did not become medics to let people die. We did not become engineers to watch systems fail. We did not join the military to abandon civilians. This is what we are. This is what humans do. Sang-ho's voice broke. You stubborn, beautiful fools. In Cargo Bay 3, something shifted. Krell looked at Yuna. Yuna looked at Jinwoo. Jinwoo looked at all the others who had been saved. No, Krell said. He stood up, his massive form towering over the others. No. I will not accept this. What can we do? Someone asked. The bays are sealing. We cannot get out. We can bear witness, Krell said. We can remember. We can make sure the galaxy knows what these humans did, that they chose everyone over themselves, that they showed us what it means to care. Jinwoo stood as well. And we can make sure their sacrifice means something. We can learn from them. Teach others. Make the galaxy different. 1,000 Ming. 1,000 Ming. 1,000 Ming. 1 minute to separation, the AI announced. Critical radiation levels in reactor room. Lethal exposure confirmed. On the screens, they could see all 3 humans now. Du-Yun at the reactor console, barely conscious. Taemin at junction 7, his hands blistered from holding the power coupling. Hana at junction 12, swaying but still standing. Then Du-Yun did something unexpected. She activated a station-wide broadcast. Her voice was weak, but clear. This is Engineer Du-Yun of Earth. To everyone listening, do not mourn us. We made our choice freely. We are humans. We do not measure our worth by how long we live. We measure it by what we protect. You are worth protecting. All of you. Remember that. Remember that every life has value. Even lives you do not know. Even lives that are different from yours. That is the lesson. That is what we want you to learn. Taemin's voice joined hers. This is Medic Taemin of Earth. I have treated thousands of patients. Saved thousands of lives. Every single one mattered. You all matter. Do not forget that. Please do not forget. Hana spoke last. This is Specialist Hana of Earth. We showed you what compassion looks like. Now show each other. Make it spread. Make it grow. Change the galaxy. Promise us. We promise, Krell roared. Around him hundreds of voices joined in. We promise. 30 seconds to separation, the AI announced. Across the galaxy, millions watched. The trial broadcasts had never stopped. They had seen everything. The panic. The plan. The sacrifice. They watched as Do-Yun's hands finally stopped moving. As Taemin's strength gave out. As Hana collapsed. 10 seconds to separation. The cargo bays detached from the main station with mechanical precision. The improvised propulsion system fired, pushing them away. Du-Yun's calculations had been perfect, even while dying. The bays accelerated clear of the blast radius. 5 seconds to reactor failure. On Earth, in a military hospital in Seoul, Taemin's mother watched the broadcast and prayed. In Busan, Hana's father held his wife as they watched their daughter's last moments. In Incheon, Du-Yun's younger brother cried. Reactor containment failure. Critical mass achieved. The station exploded. It was not a small explosion. The reactor core had enough power to run a small city. When it went critical, it released energy equivalent to a small sun. The fireball expanded, consuming everything at the center. The main station vaporized instantly, but the cargo bays were clear. Just barely. Du-Yun's timing had been perfect to the second. Inside the bays, alarms screamed. The shockwave hit like a hammer. Systems overloaded. Aliens were thrown around despite restraints. But the hulls held. The life support kept working. They survived. All 347 beings who had been on the station survived. Except 3. Rescue ships arrived within the hour. The Galactic Council had dispatched them as soon as the crisis began. But they had been too far away to help. Now they found 5 cargo bay sections floating in space, their improvised systems barely functional but intact. They found hundreds of aliens inside, traumatized but alive. They did not find the 3 humans who had made it possible. Krell was the first to speak to the rescue crews. Jinwoo showed them the recordings. Everything the humans had done. Every choice they had made. Yuna transmitted Do-Yun's final calculations to the rescue engineers. Even facing death, dying from radiation, the human engineer had created a perfect solution. The engineers stared at the data in disbelief. This should not have worked, one of them said. The safety margins were almost zero. The timing had to be perfect. The slightest error would have killed everyone. It worked because they refused to let it fail, Krell said. That is what humans are. That is what they do. The rescue crews searched the debris field thoroughly. They used every sensor, every scanner. They looked for any sign that the humans might have survived somehow. They found nothing but scattered atoms. The galaxy watched. The trial broadcasts had shown everything to hundreds of worlds. Billions of beings had seen what the humans did. They had seen champions of 100 warrior races panic and fight each other for escape pods. They had seen 3 humans from a species nobody took seriously build an impossible plan to save everyone. They had seen those same humans argue over who got to die so others could live. They had seen what Deathworlders call compassion. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. It was never silent. For 10,000 years, hundreds of representatives from across known space had argued and debated in this room. Wars had been declared here. Peace treaties signed. New species welcomed. But today, nobody spoke. They had all watched the broadcasts. They had all seen what happened at the proving grounds. The council leader, an ancient being named Therax, who had lived for 3 centuries, finally stood. His voice was heavy with something none of them had heard from him before. Shame. The trial was meant to find the galaxy's strongest warriors, Therax said. Instead, it revealed the galaxy's greatest weakness. Us. Around the chamber, representatives shifted uncomfortably. We watched champions panic and fight for their own survival. Therax continued. We established a priority system that decided some lives were worth more than others. We were prepared to let over 100 beings die because saving them was inconvenient. He paused. The screens behind him showed images of Taemin, Hana, and Du-Yun, young faces, humans who would never grow old, and then 3 humans, from a species we barely knew, taught us what we had forgotten. They showed us that true strength is not the ability to survive at any cost. It is the willingness to sacrifice for others, even at the ultimate cost. Jin Wu stood from the Melavan delegation section. His voice was small but clear. I request permission to speak. Therax nodded. My people were classified as acceptable losses, Jin Wu said. We are not warriors. We are explorers and artists. We were forced to send champions to trials we could never win. We knew we would be humiliated, possibly killed, but we obeyed because the council demanded it. He pulled out a small data device. This contains the complete recording of everything that happened. I ask that you watch it all. Not just the dramatic moments. Watch how the humans treated us from the very beginning, how they helped when they had no reason to, how they taught us to survive, how they protected the weak when the strong would have abandoned them. The recording played. The council watched Taemin and Hana save Jin Wu from the quicksand. Watched them build a coalition of species that had been enemies for centuries. Watched them refuse to leave anyone behind. When it ended, Yuna stood. The Krethian warrior's voice was hard. I am ashamed. My people call themselves the finest warriors in the galaxy. We pride ourselves on strength and honor. But we do not know what those words truly mean. The humans showed me. They were strong enough to be kind, honorable enough to help their competitors, brave enough to die for strangers. She looked directly at the Krethian delegation. I propose that we end the trials of supremacy forever. They have taught us nothing but pride and violence. Let us instead learn from the humans. Let us create something new. Krell stood next. The massive Voltuum was covered in bandages from the explosion. I mocked the humans when I first saw them. I called them weak. I laughed at the idea of sending healers to a warrior trial. I was a fool. I walked. His voice grew louder. The humans were not weak. They were the strongest beings I have ever encountered. Strong enough to care. Strong enough to help. Strong enough to die for what they believed in. I watched Medic Taemin treat my wounds when he should have left me to suffer. I watched engineer Do Yon calculate impossible solutions while dying from radiation. I watched specialist Hana throw herself between danger and others, again and again. He slammed his fist down. If these were Earth's healers and engineers, imagine what their warriors are like. Imagine a species where this is normal, where every member is taught from childhood that the purpose of strength is to protect the weak. That survival means nothing if you abandon your values to achieve it. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some agreed. Others argued that the humans had been foolish, that they could have survived if they had just saved themselves. Sang Ho entered the chamber. The old military attaché looked like he had aged 10 years in the past day, but his voice was steady. You debate whether my people were wise or foolish. Let me tell you what they were. They were human. This is what we are. This is what we have always been. He walked to the center of the chamber. Earth is a death world. Everything there tries to kill us. Our bacteria are deadly to most species. Our gravity is crushing. Our weather is violent. Our predators hunt in packs. For millions of years, we should have gone extinct. We survived by being tough, yes. By being smart and adaptable and stubborn. But mostly, we survived by taking care of each other. A human alone in the wilderness dies quickly. Humans together can build civilizations. We learned that our greatest strength was not our claws or our venom or our size. It was our ability to work together, to care for each other, to save each other. Sang Ho's voice grew hard. You call the trials of supremacy a test of strength, but strength means nothing without purpose. Power means nothing without wisdom. My 3 friends did not die because they were weak. They died because they were strong enough to choose compassion over survival. And they would make the same choice again. The chamber went quiet again. Then a representative from a small, peaceful species called the Ossians stood up. I propose a new motion. The humans should not be our champions of war. They should be our champions of civilization. The motion was seconded, then thirded. Then the whole chamber was standing, voices calling out in agreement. Therax called for order. The motion is to grant Earth a permanent seat on the Galactic Council with a specific mandate. To teach other species the principles that the humans demonstrated. Emergency medicine, disaster response, crisis management, and above all, what they call compassion. The vote was unanimous. 3 months later, Earth began sending out teams, not soldiers, not warriors, medical specialists, engineers, emergency responders, teachers. They went to 100 different worlds and taught the principles that Taemin, Hana, and Do Yun had died demonstrating. On the Crethean homeworld, human medics taught Yuna and her people combat medicine. The Cretheans learned that healing the wounded was not weakness. It was another form of strength. On the Melavan homeworld, human engineers worked with Jinwu to design better emergency systems. They taught that preventing disasters was just as important as winning battles. On the Voltuum worlds, humans trained alongside Krell and his warriors in search and rescue operations. The Voltuums discovered that their massive strength could save lives instead of just taking them. The changes spread. Slowly at first, then faster. Species that had been enemies for centuries started working together on humanitarian missions. The Galactic Council established a new branch dedicated to disaster response and peacekeeping. They called it the Compassion Corps. Every member wore a patch on their uniform. It showed 3 stars representing Taemin, Hana, and Do Yun. Below the stars were words in Korean and Standard Galactic. Every life matters. Remember them. Jinwu became the Melavan representative to the new corps. He spent his life teaching others what the humans had taught him. That being weak did not mean being worthless. That everyone had value. Yuna left the Crethean military and joined the corps as well. She became one of their finest combat medics. She never forgot the human who had treated her wounds without judgment, who had shown her that warriors could heal as well as hurt. Krell became an instructor, training new Corps members in heavy rescue operations. He told every class the same story. About 3 humans who had argued over who got to die so strangers could live. About the moment he realized what true strength meant. On Earth, statues were built. Taemin, Hana, and Doyun became heroes. Children learned their names in school. Their families were honored. Every year, on the anniversary of the station explosion, the galaxy observed a moment of silence. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds stopped what they were doing and remembered 3 humans who had changed everything. Sang-ho lived another 20 years. He spent them training new human Corps members. On his last day, surrounded by students from a dozen different species, he smiled. "You ask me if they would be proud," he said. "Of course they would. They died to save you all. And look what you have become. Look how you help each other now. Look how you care." He closed his eyes, content. They would say it was worth it. That this is what they wanted. Not statues or glory. Just this. A galaxy that learned what compassion means. The Galactic Proving Grounds was never rebuilt. The debris field where it had been was declared a memorial site. Ships passing through would stop and observe the moment of silence. But the real memorial was not in space. It was in every emergency medical team that rushed toward disasters instead of away from them. In every engineer who worked to save lives instead of just building weapons. In every warrior who learned that protecting the weak was not shameful. It was the highest calling. The real memorial was the galaxy itself, changed forever by 3 humans who had refused to let people die just because it would have been easier. 10 years after the explosion, the first mixed species disaster response team saved an entire colony from a volcanic eruption. The team was led by a human medic, supported by a Krethian, a Voltuum, and a Melavan. When asked why they had risked their lives for strangers, the humans smiled and said, "Because every life matters. 3 people I never met taught the galaxy that lesson. We are just passing it forward." Jinwoo watched the report from his office in the Compassion Corps headquarters. He was old now, his feathers gray, but his eyes were still bright. "They are still saving lives," he said softly. "Even after all these years, Taemin, Hana, Doyun, they are still saving lives through everyone they inspired." Outside his window, a training class was in session. Beings from 20 different species were learning emergency medicine, learning search and rescue, learning that the purpose of strength was to protect, not to dominate, learning what Deathworlders call compassion. And somewhere, maybe in whatever place souls go after death, 3 young humans smiled. But because they had died the way they did, they had taught the galaxy something it desperately needed to learn. That the greatest power in the universe was not the ability to destroy. It was the willingness to save, even at the cost of everything, even when it made no logical sense, even when nobody would blame you for choosing differently. They had taught the galaxy that true strength meant caring when it would be easier not to. And the galaxy had listened. The stars shone a little brighter that night, as if in celebration. The humans had been right all along. Every life mattered, even theirs.